Cleveland. Authors say to write what you know, which is why he remains unpublished.
How can you know nothing about anything?
Alan Cox.
That hack knows absolutely nothing.
On 100.7 WMMS.
Want to text me 35192, AlanCoxShow.com. You can watch iHeartRadio app if you listen for free from out of state. Tell me where you do that to know where people are. Cavs are back at home tomorrow night. 7 o'clock is the tip-off against the Orlando Magic at the Romo Fijo after the All-Star break. They will be back tomorrow night. So 7 o'clock is the tip-off there.
All-Star break.
You have 8 days since it's a leap year, 29th next week. Through the end of the month, you can use the promo code Pierogi. I had a handful of people hit me up. It's either feast or famine with people apparently not hearing the promo code, but I'm only too happy to remind you. Pierogi is what you want to use at CLE Clothing Company, and that will get you 20% off whatever you get, however often you shop there. Just use Pierogi throughout the month of February, and then we'll have a new one for you for March. I have no idea what that will be. I was watching one of our bureau chiefs in D.C. sent me this because a guy took to the local news to plead his case. A D.C. guy who said that he wants the Powerball ticket paid out to him because the Powerball put the wrong numbers on the website. That's not his fault. He thought he had won $340 million. And the lottery said, you didn't. We made a mistake. And now he's suing to get the money. He says, hey, I should have this. You guys made me. It feels like a thin case. Yeah. You know, when they come back to you and go, well, you didn't win. But he wants satisfaction from the people in charge.
I'm not a regular, except for when the jackpot goes up.
On January 6th of last year, D.C. resident Joseph Cheeks bought a Powerball ticket using a personal combination of family birth dates and other numbers. Mr. Cheeks did not see the drawing, but on January 8th, he pulled up the D.C. Lottery website on his laptop. He saw his numbers. He took this screenshot. But the numbers posted on the D.C. Lottery website
This is Powerball. Good evening, America.
Were not the same as those pulled in that Powerball drawing January 7th. His lawsuit claims his numbers remained on the lottery's website for 3 days, and the size of the Powerball prize at that time was $340 million.
And I got a little excited, but I didn't shout, I didn't scream. I just politely called a friend. I took a picture as he recommended. And that was it. Yeah, I went to sleep.
Mr. Cheeks attributes his somewhat low-key response to being deeply immersed in his work at the time. He's trying to create a home trust bank that would make loans to people who don't qualify for traditional mortgages.
The crisis of the home.
So this guy needs some startup cash. He wants to get into the banking business and needs $340 million. That would be nice.
That would be nice. I agree. That'd be nice. I would like $340 million.
But also think, I mean, because at first blush you go, well, they did post the wrong numbers, but they were the wrong. I mean, think of the people who thought they lost because the wrong numbers got posted, and then threw their, because they told this guy, throw your ticket away, it's no good. He held on to it. Now he's suing Powerball. But if they put up the wrong numbers, imagine you had a winning ticket but didn't know it.
And threw it away.
Threw away a winning ticket. Yeah.
Right. I'd be pissed, yeah.
He's hanging on to a losing ticket. I'm also fascinated by the surname Cheeks. Where do you think that came from? You know, you can trace every surname back to, you know, if Johnson, right? Son of John or some Swedish thing or Blackman. Don't know where that came from. Nevertheless, where do you think Cheeks came from?
It's a long family tradition. It used to be Clapper of Cheeks, and they just shortened it to Cheeks.
Does that also explain Clapper as the surname? You know, I knew a Todd Clapper in college.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's potentially related to the Cheeks families.
If you go way back, yeah.
Right,
Some
to the
level.
clapping of cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm glad I asked.
Mm-hmm.
A little history lesson there. I never like to leave here not having learned something new.
It's always good to learn things.
Clapper of cheeks.
Clapper of cheeks.
Yeah. It sounds like a highfalutin title that would have been given to somebody at some
for
point
sure
in history,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If you had watched Downton Abbey or what's the one that Grandma liked?
Did not. The Gilded Age. Does she watch The Gilded Age with
She
Carrie Coon
probably
from
does.
Copley, Ohio?
Probably does.
Yummy.
She likes those old shows like that.
Where they're wearing bodices and yum.
Well, no, I don't know if she watched Downton Abbey as much. But what was the one talked about a few years ago?
Oh,
Poldark.
Oh, Poldark. I thought you meant the one with
Poldark.
where
That
they
was
were,
a little later in history.
I thought you were talking about Bridgerton, the one where everybody was getting moister than an oyster. All the ladies were loving Bridgerton.
Yeah.
Poldark.
Poldark is the one she really dug. She was
Right.
really into Poldark. Not to be confused with Dark Pole.
Which that one she didn't like as much.
That's a different BBC.
Not as much. You thought the other subscriptions were expensive. Holy cow. Much more compelling than Acorn, if you catch my drift.
Right.
Okay, so Clapper of Cheeks was a thing for a while, but not anymore. Anyway,
Right.
I just love the name Cheeks. You think of Mo Cheeks from the NBA, this guy, Cheeks. I don't know. Hey, by the way, I heard from Waffles, who is a regular listener. I wanted to offer our condolences at his mom's sudden passing. But his mom had the presence of mind. He sent it to me. His mom had the presence of mind
yeah.
to write her own obituary. She had all of the costs covered. You know, we've talked about how expensive it is for someone to die and be buried. It was very expensive for my family to bury my dad because he had been sick for a long time, had let his life insurance lapse, and he and my mom just hadn't planned in the way that, you know, I think they were kind of living in some denial. But Waffle's mom passed away last week, and he said that they found out the next day that she had prepaid for everything. So obviously she knew more than maybe she was letting on. And she had written her own obituary that basically said, I loved my horses and my cats and my dogs and my friends, but there will be no services or flowers at her request. But she wanted a big BYOB party.
Love that. I love it so much.
And that at that time, my ashes will be scattered where my horse is buried. Imagine that. She didn't want anybody to dress up. They were going to be blasting country music, and she wanted everybody sharing stories of all the stupid stuff she had done in her life. And so Waffles and his family, condolences to them.
But
she really laid it out.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it,
I love
man.
that.
But imagine you get buried like with your first of all, your horse buried on the property.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just a small hole you dig. You know the kind of hole you dig, Bill, when you're going to bury a body? You know, after you've murdered someone in cold blood and you have to dig that hole?
You're about to hear from...
Are we on?
You're about to hear from Agent Jeepers
I'm just
again.
talking about some tomfoolery that maybe I...
Sounds like Agent Jeepers was onto something.
Jeepers could smell something was afoot. So, you know, when you're digging that hole, it's always bigger than you think it's gonna be.
That's why people always end up going with the shallow grave. Because it's a lot of work.
Gotta go with the deep grave. The shallow grave is always discovered.
A regular grave will probably get it done, but shallow grave ain't doing
It's
it.
not the way to do it.
I mean, regular depth graves are not hand dug.
Listen, if you get a 4-foot grave, you're probably going to be in better shape than a shallow grave.
A 6-inch grave.
Yeah, 6 inch, 1 foot. Like, yeah, it's not. Nah. You got to go multiple feet.
You at least have to, you can't have their toes sticking out.
Right. There can't be a mound.
I think that's why people moved away, and you might have noticed this, we're awash in true crime content. And I think that's why people got away from the shallow grave and got more into dismembering the bodies. Because they go, well, then you can just put all the pieces in a bag. And, Mary's case, a little closer to home, just throw it in the East River.
Yeah.
Throw some weights in there.
Like Dexter, the Bay Harbor butcher.
What? Yeah, sure. You got to puncture the lungs so they don't float. And then, I think people were like, the shallow grave, they always get caught. But imagine if they were to drag either the Hudson or East Rivers. What would be on the bottom of those things?
Nah.
Oh, come on.
Nobody's ever died here.
When we have gotten to the extreme point of climate change, who knows how long that'll be, but it is coming, obviously. We get to that point where those rivers begin to dry up. Just imagine what'll be left at the bottom. They were finding bodies in Lake Mead. That was no shock to anybody. They're like, oh, we're finding all kinds of long missing mobsters in oil drums at the bottom of Lake Mead. Imagine what they're going to find when the levels of the Hudson and East Rivers get down to nothing. There'd be bags full of people.
How many
pieces?
How many bodies do you think are in the bay?
88.
Okay.
What bay?
What about you?
Like San Francisco Bay.
How many do you think?
I would say probably a few hundred. People that then jumped off the bridge over the years.
Oh,
people
yeah.
that have been dumped in the bay.
Yeah, but they drag for the suicides, don't they?
What do you mean they drag for the suicides?
They go looking
They go
for
get
the body.
Yeah.
Oh.
'Cause usually the bodies will.
I mean, if you know that it's down there, though.
Yeah, but usually they will float too.
Or somebody will see it happen, so they'll call the cops.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are all kinds of people who jumped and died and no one saw them, and they probably are down there.
I was going to say, Lake Mead, not only is it depressing to look at, it's kind of like depressing to get to. Like, I understand why if that's where you were going to get whacked, I understand why that's where they would put you, because getting to it, like, it's so, like, remote. You got to go around a hill and around another mountain and around another mountain. And there's, like, so many, like, depths where, like, you don't see headlights, you don't see anything. You could be so discreet and like, I'm just going to dump a body in a barrel here and no one's going to, see me.
But you know what's wild, too? And this is more fodder for people who deny climate change, is the way these things start to come back. Like last year, right? All the pictures and stories of Lake Mead about how it was down to nothing. Well, it's gone back up by like 10 feet in the last 2 months because they get that water from the all of the melting ice from when it gets really cold in the mountains, Colorado River. That's what supplies Lake Mead. And so people go, oh, my God, it's the end of the world. We're inching ever closer to that. But it is pretty wild. People go, see, we'll be fine. Lake Mead's back. So I don't know. It's wild to see those things happen. But it also gives hope, I would imagine, to people who think they might have missed out on dumping a body in Lake Mead. They're like, well, I missed my window because it's, huh?
Wait a minute. Are water levels rising again?
Yeah.
Now's my chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Because climate change globally is just going to make people hotter and angrier. And that's a bad combination when resources are in increasingly short supply. There's going to be places around the world that will be uninhabitable in a relatively short period of time. And so you look at a thing like Lake Mead, it got to give hope to the budding murderer that they might, at least in that part of the country. We got it made here because we're on a great lake. And so, when they'll run the numbers on where are people going to be in the best shape for the extreme effects of climate change. It's always along the Great Lakes. It's Cleveland, Buffalo, Erie, PA, that kind of stuff. It's going to be heaven out here in about 50 years. Everybody's going to want to come to Cleveland. Do you know how many downtown condos they're going to have to build to accommodate all of the climate refugees?
Do you understand how ass backwards that is? The world has to end in order for everyone to want to move to Cleveland.
Hey, whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
Everything else is burning up. People can't find food. There's famine, whatever. And, Cleveland seems very wonderful now. Sorry, we made fun of you all these years. You're not the mistake on the lake. You're the Messiah.
Whatever it
promised
takes.
Land.
Whatever it takes. Cavs are gonna do. I said Cleveland's gonna do. I said we all got to do. I said whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm. That will be the Extreme Climate Change theme song. So, anywho, that's something to look forward to. You can leave us messages a variety of ways. Of course, people text me. You can leave voicemails on the After Hours line. You can drop quick messages on the talkback button there, a little red thing on the iHeartRadio app.
Alan, you guys were talking about dark coffee. Dark roast has the least amount of caffeine out of all coffees. That's why a breakfast blend is usually a light or a medium roast. Used to be a barista, don't want to brag or nothing, but I know my coffee. So yeah, if you want something that's going to get you jacked up, get a light roast.
How about that? Yeah. Because Bill's getting into grinding his own beans.
I thought I said that yesterday.
You probably did.
Because Poundcake said, I get that dark roast and it really gets me going. I said, yeah, but a light roast is where there's more coffee. There's more caffeine, I mean.
I was a barista many, many years ago, too, but I didn't know coffee. And that's what got me hired. There were a couple of lawyers with more money than they know what to do with. They were probably laundering it, and they were opening a couple of local coffee houses. And when I needed a gig, and I walked right in, and the manager was interviewing people, he goes, "I'm only hiring 4 or 5 people." I said, "Oh, well, I don't know anything about coffee, but this place was also going to be selling a lot of tea." And I said, "Tea is my jam." And he hired me because of my candor. So anything about coffee I need to learn, I'll learn. With the tea, I know what I'm talking about. So I was a barista, didn't know a goddamn thing about coffee. Because most people come in, it's like being a bartender. Most people are ordering a beer or a shot. It's pretty rare you got to make somebody a Harvey Wallbanger. Same thing with coffee. Most of the time, you're just like, give me a black coffee. Give me an espresso. Give me a whatever they do.
I can't mess with espresso.
Give me a latte.
With what?
Espresso? Espresso?
I mean, you know what the word is.
Espresso, my bad, but
it is your bad.
I can't mess with that. It's
Why?
Too much. Because I don't need to be that damn energized. There's nothing I'm doing. There's nothing in my world that says you need an espresso.
See, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I do like an espresso after dinner. If it's on the menu and they go, "Can I get you anything else?" and somebody else is like, "Oh, I'm going to get, I don't know, mousse or creme brulee or something," I'll go, "You know what? Let me have an espresso. That sounds good. I like that." But I'm not a coffee drinker.
That's such a.
It doesn't get me all like riled up either.
Espresso after dinner if I have a whole night ahead of me, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But if I'm trying to go to sleep,
it will make.
Yeah.
It doesn't get me going.
What gets you going?
Yeah.
Mountain Dew.
Shut up, Mary.
Do you have any dew on the menu?
Yeah. People keep sending me the video of that Mountain Dew wine. Have you seen the?
Oh, the mead guy. Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah. He made like Mountain Dew. Was it mead? Is that what it was?
It's just like he's like a mead maker, but I think he's making Mountain Dew wine or whatever it is. It's getting close to being ready.
He's like, "Here's my 1 month update on my Mountain Dew wine."
Expected. Let's see where we're at. Today's a special day because we are not only going to taste it, but also do something to speed this process up so that hopefully we can get this completely finished very soon. But first, let's quickly see where we're at in terms of alcohol. So based on the current gravity value, we are already at 12.
Well, anyway, I don't know all that crap, but it is pretty wild, so everybody's sending me that. I'm going to break here. You want to get the last word in before we split? Shoot me a text, 35192, and we'll be back.
It's the Alan Cox Show. Everywhere on our free iHeartRadio app.